Hello, I'm Diana Falzone, a senior reporter at Mediaite. Welcome to Behind the Byline, where I speak with some of the most compelling people in media and politics today. On Behind the Byline, we delve into who they are, where they came from, and what makes them tick. A person first, a public figure second. Today, I'm joined by the senior political correspondent for Puck News and host of the Ringer podcast, Somebody's Gotta Win. Previously, Tara was a lead author of Playbook and White House correspondent at ABC News. Appreciate you being here, Tara.
Thanks so much for having me, Diana. I'm honored to be picked to talk about myself.
I am a big fan of your work. I follow everything that you're doing. You're breaking stories left and right. It is a, shall we say, chaotic time in our history. Yeah. I want to go to your Puck bio, and it reads that you are Washington's most feared and fearless politics reporter. And you kind of mentioned about how every time you drop a story, you just don't know what the reaction is going to be. If right. You could, God forbid, knock on wood, you never lose your job, anything like that. But right. You are in DC. You are at social events. You are at right. work events. I mean, what, if you're willing to share, what were some of the most awkward or uncomfortable moments where you've seen someone you wrote about and let's say less than flattering terms, and you happen to see them at one of these set events?
Oh yeah. I mean, sometimes the funny thing is I started my career at the Washington Examiner writing a political gossip column, right? So I started my career with people angry about something I wrote, which they were accurate. The stories were accurate, but they just didn't like it, or they kind of just felt like you're too nosy, you shouldn't be writing about this or that. Fine, whatever. I don't even remember. Sometimes people will be angry with me about a story that I wrote. To me, I try to be fair, you know what I mean? But I also I'm not going to hold back for fear or favor, right? I don't really play the access game. I probably should think, longer term, but I don't think it's actually the right way to play the game. I think you just need to get the news out, and tell people what they need to know and let the chips fall where they may. And I really believe if it's true and it's accurate, more sources will come to you because they'll see you as someone who's fearless and willing to tell the truth. And people are attracted to that. I've seen it. People have said, "Oh, I'm sure you pissed off this campaign," or "They can't be happy with you." And it's yeah, but there's 5 other people out there who've just read my story who are now calling me, telling me you got it right. Let me tell you some more. So I really believe if you're reporting truth to power, you will, and usually you're alone. Usually you're not with the herd. This. You do a ton of reporting like this. Sometimes you have to go out there on a limb, and people might not follow your story, or they might not chase it. Maybe they're being told by, the powers that be that it's not right. They try to pit your colleagues against you, tell them not to work with you. I've had everything happen like that. I've had people get angry with me at parties, but I don't even, sometimes I'm wait, who are you? I don't even know who you are. You know what I mean? It's there's so many people that I interact with and report on day to day. I don't do it for personal reasons. Not I'm I like this person, I don't like this person. I'm not targeting people individually. I'm merely reporting facts. So sometimes it can be a bit awkward, but I've gotten to the point too where a lot of people who I've written really tough stories about, this person's going to get fired or this or that. Sometimes after they get fired, we're let's get lunch, and they've ended up being really good sources, and friends. And, I think it's just, you learn this in your career, you know what I mean? You want to be fair, you want to be accurate, but you shouldn't hold back for fear or favor, I think. And
right.
And that's my guide.
And what you're saying to me resonates as the ethos of journalism, right? Truth to power. As long as you have your facts right and it is of public interest, that's your job. I mean, that's essentially the job.
Right. So, but again, not other people are playing chess, you know what I mean? Then they're thinking okay, well, I want to have access to this person to do this booking on my show or this or that. And it might make booking more challenging, but maybe the conversation's going to be boring once you book the person. Do you know what I mean? Wouldn't you rather tell the story than have the booking, or have guests on who are willing to cut through the spin and the garbage and just tell the truth. I mean, to me, that's more important than getting
I
like
think
big
that's
booking.
compelling. I think
Yeah.
that's compelling storytelling.
Yeah.
Um, you kind of mentioned it, but dealing with intimidation is part of the business. Do you think the climate's gotten worse for journalists in recent years?
Yeah, I mean, I've like just seen like subtle, I guess this has always been happening. There's always been subtle ways that like administrations have tried to like, pit journalists against each other, divide newsrooms, which are already very divisive, right? And you've got journalists all fighting for the same scoops and the same stories. And, they try to like pit your colleagues against you or complain to your bosses or cut off your access. Like, I couldn't get a press credential when Spicer was the press secretary. Like I wasn't getting my White House press badge. I didn't know if I can get in or not. So I just had to report from the outside, from the outer circle and get in. And I was breaking big stories though. It turns out like you don't need to be sitting in the briefing room every day asking questions in front of a camera and everyone getting those stories, which I think are very important. But for me, like I was actually adding more value on the outside. And I think Spicer knew it, and he just didn't know how to control it. So he thought, I'll punish her. I'll punish her. And I do think like there is definitely utility to doing press conferences. It's really important. It should be on the television news. Like we should be having access to politicians. But if there are like, you know, if there are 20 reporters at a press conference and they're all doing their jobs right, I don't necessarily need to be there. Like I can be at home hitting the phones and telling the story that's not being covered by 20 other outlets and still be contributing to the dialogue and to like and to truth and making sure that we're covering, the election, which is what I've been covering this past cycle, fairly and correctly and making sure that people feel like they know about the candidates.
You just mentioned on something again that it you've gone through a lot in your career,
Yeah.
and you've dealt with people calling you names, trying to question your sourcing, trying to
Right.
question your integrity, all of those things, right?
Right.
Because when you hit the sensitive spots, people
Yeah.
get nervous,
Right.
and then they just try to go after your credibility as a way to control the narrative, let's say.
I think it's also like exactly that. It's the easiest thing to do is to attack the messenger, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Always.
what they do, but I look at it and I'm like, that's pretty pathetic.
Yeah. I always like the I'm going to sue you personally is my favorite like legal threat that I always get either
Wow.
before a story publishes or whatever. Like I'm going to destroy your life and come after your finances,
Oh
not just
God.
the outlet. Those are always fun ones.
Oh my
But
God.
here nor there, is there ever a point where you're just like, I don't need to deal with this crap anymore. Like I could just go do my dream job, which, I think you are doing your dream
Yeah.
job, but was there ever like a moment where you're just like, I could get out of this racket and go do
Oh yeah.
something
No,
in
there have been
a small
multiple
town in
times in
Jersey?
my yeah, there have been multiple times in my career where I'm like, do I really want to be doing this anymore? And I was just wondering, like, what is my purpose? Is this really like what I am here to do? I was feeling a little directionless, and yeah, the meditation retreat was really good for me because it just kind of reminded me, like, yeah, it's exhausting, but like you have to kind of like put on your armor, go in there and do the hard stuff, and then take it off,
Mhm.
right? And then separate yourself from that kind of warrior or whatever you want to call it. You're, journalist, you're going into dark places. That's the thing about journalism, especially political journalism. It can be very dark and that can be hard for you, at least for me. But I think, you have to learn how to separate yourself from it. And I found that like upon meditation, I was like, I just have to separate myself and do the job and know that like not everybody's made for it, but I am. So I should not do it until there's
Yeah.
a like green flashing light that tells me, Tara, there is something else for you in this world and what you should be than this. Because there hasn't been. Like I haven't, it's not like when I'm like writing
Yeah.
up, I guess thought bubbles or journaling or something about what should I be doing next. Nothing else comes to mind. This is it. I don't know what else I could do. That's the
I have
problem.
I have the same feeling. I have the
Yeah.
same feeling. I'm always like, well, I could just open up like a Hallmarkian coffee shop, and I'm like, yeah, that wouldn't fulfill, right? It's like this. There has to be that want, that need, that
Right.
just, yeah, like you said, you have that in you. It's a gift. In
But I
order
also
to
don't want to
kind
work. People are like, would you work for a politician? I'm like, no, I don't believe in, like, I don't have fundamental, like, I don't believe in either side in the sense that I want to like promote them. I'm not political in that sense. It's just, I'm interested in politics because it's about power and I'm keeping power in check, but I don't want to like make the powerful more powerful, So that's the difficult part about it. But yeah, I mean, who knows? Listen, maybe in a few years, I'm going to say, I've had enough, but I'm not I haven't had enough and I don't think that'll happen.
no,
So
I don't think so either. And we don't want that to happen because you're doing vital
same
work.
here. You have to keep doing
Uh,
the good fight. You're doing a lot of amazing work. I'm always impressed. You always have like these great exposés and
Thank you.
it's hard
Appreciate
work. Like you get it. You're on the other side.
Like I said, I'm loving what I'm seeing on your pages,
Oh, thank
and
you.
you are just turning it out. How are you hanging in there? Like, what are you doing to decompress?
Actually, I've taken up meditation. I don't know if you do that, but I went
No.
on a silent meditation retreat. I know that's crazy. You cannot speak to anyone for 4 days. Uh, you're not really supposed to make eye contact because it's sort of a form of communication. You give up your
Oh,
phone. I was just feeling really stressed. It was like back in April and I was so tired. And I remember like someone from the White House was calling and screaming at me. Someone from like this major media company's calling and screaming at me, and like everyone's calling, and I had to like hand over my phone essentially and just be okay with stepping away from everything. And you kind of get like panicked. You're like, oh my God, worst case scenario, what's going to happen? And then you sort of get through it. And I felt like I learned a lot about like meditation and just how to calm yourself. And I do it twice a day. And I think it's really helpful because sometimes everything can feel really life or death, even
mhm.
when it's not in news, just because you get sucked into the adrenaline of it all. And we are, there's so much demanded of us, especially in this media environment where we have to be writers, we have to be on TV, we have to create digital content, we have to host podcasts. And so you're always on. And so it was kind of special to be off for a few hours and disconnected. And I realized, well, not a few hours, a few days. And I really enjoyed it. Like I didn't hate it at all. In fact, I wanted more because we have to communicate. So it was like a gift to not
Mhm.
communicate. Actually, someone on the retreat was like trying to talk to me. I'm like, stop, I don't want to talk. And it really just, it gave me a life skill that I think I'll hold on to for the rest of my life. And that's just to meditate every day and to calm your mind.
How do you find, I mean, I struggle with when do I, people, like I have friends that are in different occupations and they turn off their phone at like 8 p.m.
Wow.
I never turn off my phone, and
Right.
I'm like, this probably very unhealthy. Have
Right.
you found a way through doing guided meditation and taking that retreat? Did they give you any tools that you can impart
No,
for
in fact, it was
all of
like
us journalists?
it was kind of like you have to get through the panic of it and be like, oh, wait, once you have accepted that anything that happens in life, you can deal with it. Once you figure that out, you can probably get through anything and you can probably, survive most situations. So it's like in my head, I had to be like, okay, when I turn my phone back on, there might be a huge mess. My story that I just put out might cause a total firestorm that I can't react to. I might lose my job. I might, who knows? There might be some crazy online campaign against me. You never know, right? You really don't know. Every time you drop a story, you don't know the reaction entirely. Like you can't always be sure. And there was like a lot of, anger and which I think means you're hitting a tough spot. So a soft spot or a sensitive area. And I just sort of had to like breathe through it and be like, you know what, no matter what happens, I'm going to be okay. And then, I'll move forward, like in whatever direction I'm supposed to be in or not. And I think once you kind of realize like this isn't everything in life, is not all about your job and news and that you can recover, then I think you have a power, that a superpower in a way. You're not as owned by it. We've had a crazy summer. I'm sure you felt this way as well, where like 2 Sundays, like our days of rest were, you know, no, three, sorry. Two were assassination attempts, right? One was the president of the United States putting out a memo, a white paper on Twitter saying he's dropping out of the race. It's just been a lot. Like there's been no chance to really relax or kind of take the time to decompress after the week's work, right? So yeah, it's been a bit harder than usual, but you just have to figure it out. I'm sure you have too. Otherwise, it's not sustainable. I look at people who have children, and I'm like, I don't know how they do it. I don't have any kids, and they're like the women who do it. I'm like, they are super women because I know that a lot of that gets left to the woman, and I'm like, they can do it. If you can do that, if you can have a child and have this kind of job, I think you can do anything.
I raised my son alone. I'm a solo parent. His dad
Wow.
passed away, and it's just funny. Like he'll get frustrated with me, especially when things happen on the weekend, and he'll go, "Mom, put your phone down." He's like, "It's
Oh.
quality family time," and then you
Oh.
feel so guilty. But
Oh.
it's part of the job, and I hope one day he understands the importance of the work that we're all doing and
Yeah.
contributing to. He's only 6, so there's that.
I felt the same way at 6. Like, I always wanted more time with my parents. It's hard to understand no matter what they were doing. It's like you always want that. So I get it. But that must be hard. See, I couldn't imagine. I like my dog looks at me for hours being like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing?" And I feel guilty enough. Imagine a human being that's my child. I don't know how you do it. I should be interviewing you.
No, no. It's a day by day, hour by hour process of learning how to do it. I want to go to something that's even more important to both of us, and I think that's the Jersey pride we have. We are
For
both
sure.
Jersey girls.
Yeah. Where are you from in Jersey, Diana?
I saw I saw a picture of you from high school that you posted, and it was great. It was everything that encompassed a Jersey girl,
Right.
the crimped out hair, the
Oh God.
hairspray, the eyeliner, the bronzer. I was like, yeah, we're kind of kindred spirits.
Oh, I had I had blue contacts in then too. It was a lot. Yeah. Where are you from
It
in
was a lot.
Jersey?
I am from West Milford, which is a
Oh,
town that celebrates a traffic light, and now it's become like one of the biggest autumn festivals in all of
of course.
the tri-state area. Where? How about
Greenwood
you?
Lake is in West Milford. I used to go there all the
Yeah,
time as a kid.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. How about you?
I'm from Lincoln Park, but I went to school at DePaul Catholic, and so I had friends that lived in West Milford. One of my best friends at the time in high school, and we would go to West Milford all the time. So that's so fun. Yeah, so
Yeah.
we're just a few stops away on Route 23.
Yep. Yep. Good old Route 23. A lot of, and also as Halloween comes up, there's a lot of Jersey haunted history as well.
Oh yeah, spooky
Yeah,
Jersey. Nothing more
for
fun than
sure.
that.
Yep, weird
Yeah.
New Jersey. So I want to put you on the spot very quickly on some of your Jersey preferences, if you don't
Okay,
mind.
go for it. Shoot.
Okay, Bon Jovi or Springsteen,
Bon Jovi.
Wawa or 7-Eleven.
7-Eleven. We're North Jersey. We don't have Wawa.
Oh, they're creeping up now.
Are they? They've moved
Yes.
up.
Yes, they did.
Okay,
Is it
good to
a
know.
pork roll or Taylor ham?
Taylor ham. I feel like this is a Southern Jersey. This is like South versus North. We're North Jersey girls.
I know, I know. Jets
But
or
I
Giants?
love Taylor ham. I haven't had so long.
I
So
know. And
bad for you.
I mean, I don't want to start like another war here, but Connecticut just named themselves like the best pizza.
Oh wow. Can they do that?
I guess they can do whatever they want, but that doesn't make it a fact, right?
No, no, no. Never thought of Connecticut as a place to get pizza.
They do have some, I will give them, they have Mystic Pizza, they have some spots that are pretty good, but
Yeah,
I still think Jersey knows what's up.
right.
Um, Jets or Giants, or should Jersey have their own team?
I guess Giants, just due to the fact that like I would go to Giants games as a kid, but I'm really not a big football person or fan, or I guess, but I go to Jets games now because my friends have box tickets, so it's like again not really.
Yeah.
But I think Jersey owns the Giants and New York owns the Jets because it was Giant Stadium in Secaucus. It wasn't Jet Stadium then.
Right. That is true.
So
It just should
we'll
be
take
rebranded,
we own the
I
Jets
think.
now.
Yeah. In my humble opinion, they should just rebrand it to the Jersey Giants. And
Yeah,
then,
for sure.
and I know in my career, I have always been teased like, can you say coffee? I'm like, no, because we don't have accents like this. Like I would say,
Coffee?
yeah, like people would always ask me as soon as they found out I was from Jersey, they're like, can you say coffee? And I'd be like, coffee. They're like, no, say it like you're from Jersey. Did you
Yeah.
ever run into that once people find out like the Jersey stereotypes that happen to us?
Yeah, I don't even think that I think I just say coffee the wrong way and water and well, it's funny. I've like lived so many places in the past. I don't know. I haven't lived in Jersey since I was 21 because my parents moved. Actually, they moved to like a part of Jersey that's near Trump's golf course, Branchburg, which doesn't really feel like Jersey to me. I feel like you're crossing the north-south line and you're almost like in Pennsylvania. You're near Bucks
Mm-hmm.
County. And then and now they live in North Carolina. And I've lived in Belgium and Washington, D.C. And so I've lost the hard Jersey sound that I used to have. But yeah, it was much harder. I think water, coffee. I probably said it much worse. It's really the way I say my name, I think, which is the dead giveaway. I say Tara. And everyone's like, is it Tara? Is it Tara? And I'm like, it's Tara. I think the sound your mother makes when she says your name is your name, essentially. And my mom would say, Tara, so it's
That's
Tara.
great. Great. I love it. Yeah, these are the things that give us our foundation of who we are.
That was the thing. I was inspired when I was in high school by the Muckrakers. When I
Yes.
read about them, I was like, wow. Yeah, it was yellow journalism. I mean, I did work at the New York Post, so I guess it's not surprising that I would end up working at like a tabloid. But it changed the course of like the health codes and history, really,
Mm-hmm.
in New York. I mean, it made it a safer place to live. The meatpacking industry they uncovered, the conditions inside of the factories and mental institutions, like it required that kind of work to make sure that that we lived in a safer environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If the journalists who do that kind of work go away, there are a lot of negative implications to that.
And we're
Like,
already seeing it
mhm,
because of the way that local news is just like being gutted and destroyed. I mean, we still need investigative journalism in
mhm.
whatever form it comes. I mean,
Yes, like you said, even at the town level to the
right,
national to the international, in
right.
order to kind of get through, let's say, some of the murkier times, do you have a media mentor, or do you have a person you go to for advice in the industry that you trust, who's giving you some, good guidance or wisdom?
Yeah, it's funny. Like I'm really good friends with Julie Mason from Sirius XM POTUS channel. We work together at the Washington Examiner. She's always been like a mentor for me. Carrie Budoff Brown was my editor at Politico, and now she's at NBC News. She's always been a mentor. Michelle Gotthelf at the New York Post. She was my boss. She's been a mentor. I feel like I have had really strong, powerful, awesome female bosses, and they have helped me thrive in my career. And they are so underrated and they're so talented. And we need so many more of them to be supporting other women. And yeah, when I'm in my phases of self doubt or wondering, what's next, they've always been there for me. So it's kind of a special relationship, and I'm super thankful to them. And now I'm at that phase too, where I'm like, all right, I got to start mentoring kids, like younger women too. Um, so I need to be willing to put the time in for that.
Yeah, and I think that organically happens too,
It
because
does. Yeah.
you'll just have more people coming to you and asking. And I do agree. I think that we all have to look out for each other because it is such a highly charged job.
Right.
And it's there's a lot of high stakes.
Right.
I found something that you did very, very cool, and I loved it. I love the scene in Billions where you just came up and you were the hard hitting reporter, and I love how the recorder just came out and the question was so
Yeah.
direct. And that was a very cool moment.
Yeah.
So you've had these like I've made it moments. I would assume you consider them in your career. You've been on hit TV shows, cable news networks. For you, what is your like I made it moment? This is like the best thing that's happened so far for me.
you know, like there there have been some really cool milestones in my career. And definitely Billions. Like that was amazing. That was a cool experience to play myself in a cameo as a cameo. That was awesome. They do use a lot of reporters. Olivia Nuzzi from New York Magazine was also on it. They even in the scene that I was in, there was another like television personality. I'm blanking on his name, but he was in it. But yeah, that was a really, really cool moment. Going on Bill Maher to me was huge. Like that was a really like I pinch me moment. I was like, I cannot believe I'm going on Bill Maher. That was because I love his show and that was really big. You know, and I think also like being a White House correspondent for ABC. I mean, it was an interesting experience because it was my dream job to be a White House correspondent for a network, and it's just the kind of with life, it was like a dream job from afar. But I think once I had it and I saw it up close and I experienced like what it was like, you know, it wasn't exactly right for me. You know, I really wanted to be doing more of that hard hitting reporting, writing, digging up stories. And it's just when you're a White House correspondent, you're covering the president every day. It doesn't really require it doesn't really give itself to doing like investigative reporting truly. And so it wasn't really the right fit for me ultimately. And I think that was hard. I think it was hard for me to sort of recognize that it wasn't the right place and it wasn't the right fit for a job. But you know, we have to reboot. And what I did next actually felt so real to who I am. And it was doing the investigation on Jeffrey Epstein for a podcast called Broken Jeffrey Epstein. And I worked really closely with the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, and we traced their paths through their childhood and spoke to, you know, actual witnesses to the crimes committed against them. And many of those witnesses ended up being the witnesses in the case against Ghislaine Maxwell, which ultimately ended in a criminal conviction. So I feel personally fulfilled. And I feel like that kind of work, that investigative work, gave me more joy than probably anything I've ever done before, because it felt like I had gotten action for these women who were treated so poorly for so long, ignored. There is one moment though that made the whole White House correspondent experience worth it. Going to North Korea, that was amazing. That was sick. So that would make it. So yeah, I mean, I think it all kind of makes sense. Like it's all kind of it's been a winding road. I lived in Europe for a few years. I covered European diplomacy and out of Brussels. Like everyone was like, "What are you doing moving to Brussels? Like you don't know anything about Europe." I'm like, "You're right. I literally read a how-to European Union book when I showed up." I was like, my boss actually caught me in a laundromat reading the book about how to like the European Union. And she was like laughing, Carrie Budoff Brown, at me about it. But you know, I had the best time of my life, and I've just tried to roll with it. Like, who knows what's going to be next? We don't know. This whole medium is changing so much.
I know it is, and we're seeing a lot of outlets, established outlets, having layoffs, networks perhaps changing things up with their lineups, maybe in the next quarter. There's just a lot going on. For you, is there a goal in sight that you want to reach, or something that you have in the near future? I mean, you're doing a lot as it is, just
Thanks.
to be clear.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that. You know, I want to continue to be a multi-platform journalist. Like I want to continue to write great columns for Puck. I want to build my audience for my podcast, Somebody's Gotta Win. I'd like to see it eventually go into video format like your show. I'd like to, you know, I want to keep building my social media presence, because I really think that is how people are getting their news now. I think they're looking at their Instagram and their TikTok, and I have a long way to go in terms of building a TikTok following. I'd like to, you know, be contributing more to the cable news networks. And like thinking more about like the future of news, right? And that is truly in your phone. And so I think I want to continue to be creative about how to reach bigger, broader audiences, and to, and to keep doing what we're doing until it becomes glaringly obvious that it's time to shift, you know? And that's all we can do in life.
I'm so happy that we've gotten to know you a bit more from, just seeing you on social, seeing your byline, seeing you on
Thanks.
TV. This is really nice to get to understand like what motivates someone. So it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. I want to like flip the script and ask you all these questions, but I guess I'll have to have you on my show.
I'd love
Um,
to
that
anytime.
would be great. We'll have to do it post-election though, because right
Yes,
now I'm in like, right now
later.
I'm just like strategy. What's the next state? Is North Carolina really in play? Like it's become very
Yeah,
intense. But after the election, we will have to do a show
for
together. I would
sure.
love that.
Well, thank you for joining us. And for
Okay, thank
more
you.
insightful interviews covering media and politics, go to Mediaite.com. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube.